So, a fourth thing, migration tooling and fidelity, or data fidelity. We bumped into the issue that, for those who don't know, um, right now I've been leveraging a mechanism called restore repo or repo restore. I always forget which is a mechanism that Gitea provides users to restore a previously dumped version of a repository from disk back into Gitea. Now, dumping to disk can either be from a local Gitea repository or from a remotely accessed repository. Now, for this, typically you create an application key in GitLab, GitHub, or Gitea, and then say, look, I want to have not just the Git repo, but I want to have all the other artifacts as well. So pull requests, comments, issues, all those types of things are pulled out as much as that type of forge allows. Now, in the past, most forges would actually not allow much access to this type of data at all. You would be lucky if you could get your Git repo out, but after that's about it. If you wanted to have issues, you would have to scrape them from the website, etc. This has changed quite a lot. A lot of forges now have dedicated APIs for this type of purpose, and it allows you to pull the data out with a reasonably high amount of fidelity, meaning you get not just the issues, but also the comments and all the actions like subscribers that got added or not, etc. Now, that last one is already an interesting one because it involves users, and typically forges are kind of not very keen on having user interactions be exportable. But slowly, as time progresses, these types of things are also entering into the types of data that you can get out of a forge. That's all nice and well, but the restore repo logic inside of Gitea does not provide for high fidelity import of a number of these types of data yet. And it means that right now you can make, for example, an import of all the issues that you have, and you can have all the comments on the issues being imported, but it does not support other types of interactions being entered into the database than comments. Comments in Gitea, like in most other forges, can be of all kinds of types. Types such as this thing has been tagged, subscriber has been added, issue has been closed or opened. These types of things appear in amongst the comments in a special way. They're not a comment. It's not somebody saying, I changed this. It's a system message. Right now, the importer for this type of data actually makes it a user message. It basically says, user blah says, blah has been subscribed to this issue. Which is kind of a poor man's way of doing it, but it works quite well, and you can see the logical flow of what happened inside of that issue without too much of a trouble. But it lacks the fidelity that you actually would like to have. And Gitea supports these types of interactions just as well as GitHub and GitLab does, so there's no reason why we wouldn't import them in a native way. The issue is just that the importer doesn't allow for this. Now, the importer uses YAML files that have a structure which you have to kind of wrangle your data into this YAML structure, which for issues and comments on issues is reasonably easy. The strain starts to come when we move towards pull requests and reviews. Specifically, reviews and inline comments have a weird way of requiring you to not just refer to a diff, but and the line number of where the comment should be placed, but it also requires you to include the specific hunk of the diff in the YAML file that you want to have the inline comment referred to, which is quite bothersome. It's just encumbering. It creates an amount of extra work that you need to do because you need to take the diff, look at which line number applies to, or which line number the comment applies to, find the hunk that it applies to, cut and paste that into the YAML file, etc. There's a number of other types of other places where this type of behavior is present, and it basically becomes quite cumbersome to work with after a while. We can overcome them, but instead of that, in cooperation with Mati, we decided, look, we're going to first work on a high fidelity migration API, which is already in the works inside of Gitea for other reasons and for other applications. They're going to extend that, and Mati is going to keep our use case in mind when doing this, so that we are directly able to leverage that in our efforts to get data into Blender. The way forward is to take the current comments and issues migration tooling, which produces a set of YAML files to import and to move that towards the high fidelity migration API as the first thing. That will enable me to get used to that API, test it, to actually get the fidelity in the comments and issues that I currently was lacking, while that will allow us both to start working on a more useful way of working with the pull requests and the reviews, because right now just doing this in the YAML format is not going to be very successful. And this has to do with a thing that I'll mention later on in this series of videos as well, which is basically about how to handle certain types of reviews with certain attributes. I will not address this here. Yeah, I think that's basically the upshot of the fourth part of this. Migration tooling and data fidelity. We are going to have that be a thing which is going to be tackled first, so that we can start using it in the rest of our efforts. We realize also that it is very good to early on have things to show people and to say, look, have a look at the way that this is imported and presented, so that we can have not just me, not just him, look at these types of imports, or think about it in our heads, but actually show, like, this is what we imported. We think everything has a logical relationship with each other. We're able to do a couple of random sample tests where we look at, let's say, 10 tickets and see, does it look correct? But of course, there's over 10,000, 15,000 issues, probably many, many more. I forgot how many. Pull request alone is 15,000 over the whole Fabricator instance. We are only able to sample a small subset ourselves, having people go to issues or pull requests that they are familiar with and know and care about because they were personally involved, for example, and then to see, look, it actually looks the same here as it did on the original instance in Fabricator. That's going to be valuable, and it's going to speed things up a lot. For that reason, it's important that we get those things in there as quick as possible, and having a high fidelity migration API for this available to do that is of paramount importance. So that's one of the things that we are having Gitea work on for us right now. That's number 4.